I think we got it now. I was incognito there for a little bit, stuck. I guess. Well, hopefully we don't have any problems and stuff. Yeah, that was a little weird, but seems like everything's okay now. You guys can hear me all right and stuff. So we're gonna have another fun live show. We'll be talking about a couple different things regarding the mental fortitude in regards to surviving Bigfoot land. And there's a couple things, many things actually go along with that. Actually, it's not just the physical side of Bigfoot that we should work on, and mainly ourselves. Doing push-ups and other things to help strengthen the body, but also we should help strengthen the mind and stuff. And of course, physical exercises help do that and stuff. But when you're in the community and stuff, whether you're a researcher or you're a person who has a story, a true story, something that actually happened to you, you gotta survive the pressures and stuff of people who are going to call you out, and people are skeptical, and people have some criticism about your story or your research, or whatever it is regarding the Bigfoot community. Mainly, if you have a story and stuff, you're gonna withstand the criticisms of whether or not it's real and stuff, and you know not losing your place and stuff against people who just really want to know the if the proof's in the pudding and stuff, or some people who are really just trolling and stuff and really nefarious about whether or not your stuff's real or not, or other people who will want to use you for their advantage and stuff, of course, for money, mostly money. You know, a good story is valuable on a pretty good channel and stuff. So it's all about making the money and stuff. But also, you know, when it comes to Bigfoot research, or even just a person who has a story to tell and what they really want to, you know, talk about, and it becomes kind of hard for them to reach out or start out, especially when you have the media and stuff, or even mainstream science that kind of laugh at it and scoff at the idea that there's a North American great ape or a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or whatever cryptids it may be residing in America, especially, but North America and South America and the world beyond. So, you know, you gotta develop this mental fortitude, this resilience to the criticism, and gotta learn to filter through all the crap. Really, I mean, through the input and also from ridicule and stuff. You gotta stay focused on more of the, you know, your long term goals or objectives, rather than getting all grandiose on one piece of evidence, say researcher finds and stuff. You know, clinging to that. You know, you gotta survive the strains of sharing your evidence out there, because anyone who has evidence knows as soon as you start posting it to all different groups, or the big groups, or um, Steven Stufer's group, actually, you know, you might come across some ridicule, especially from the other last group, and especially if your evidence isn't that good, or you have some, uh, fantasy eyes, I would say. You know, you should probably get ripped on a little bit, because circles around bushes isn't really evidence. But if you got audio evidence and encounters and stuff that's on film and stuff that like got thrown, and you should have the mental fortitude to withstand some of the ridicule or actual input, whether or not it's good enough, real, interesting, whatever it is. Because most of the time it's, I mean, unless you got really Bigfoot on camera doing something crazy, it's really not truly good enough. But at the same time, it is building up more and more and more. And from those who are experienced stuff, these things are real out there. They are more than just fantasy and stuff. So being able to withstand the pressures from, your friends and family and stuff, being ridiculed, being dismissed, being kind of laughed at almost. Realistically, it's gotten a lot better since the multiple shows like Finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot. Those helped pave the way to maybe smooth some of these people to come out of the woodwork and tell their stories, of course. But the decades before this, especially early on, it was laughed at and stuff. You were the town crazy or the town drunk, with another big fish story. And it used to a lot more, I would say, put a lot of pressure on people locally and, in the status quo of things, if you were a lawyer or a judge and stuff, or someone of higher importance, maybe would take more seriously. But at the same time, with so much ridicule and stuff, even higher up people in society were still afraid to tell their Bigfoot stories and reports. But there are judges and sheriffs and cops and city officials and everywhere else that encounter these creatures and stuff, and the ridicule that comes with it. Here in Michigan, especially, there was the men. They signed an affidavit describing the attack, and they went through the newspapers and went media at the time, and were ridiculed heavily nationally and very much locally, to the point that they didn't want anything to do with anything Bigfoot anymore. They were pretty much ran away and um, because no one believed them at the time, and everyone laughed at them. And when you go to the local grocery store, especially at that time, uh, mid 60s, it was a lot different and stuff than now. They didn't have all the Bigfoot shows and the family friendly events and all that, and the kind of more street knowledge of Bigfoot and stuff. So at that time, and for many years, was a stigma of, oh, you see Bigfoot, ha ha ha, you got issues, whatever. You're on something, or you've been drinking a little too much while you've been walking through the woods or whatever. And so, I think being laughed at mattered a little bit more when society was a little bit different. They didn't have the mainstream idea of Sasquatch in everyone's, family home. I mean, you can ask about Bigfoot, and I'm sure most families and people would kind of know what you're talking about. And if you have a story and stuff, especially now, you're not really looked at like the town idiot or the crazy or whatever, because especially if you have something on the phone or film or audio or whatever, a lot easier to get evidence compared to a story. So yeah, you got to have the mental fortitude to withstand all of that, especially if you have a real story, you have a real experience, you're researching is real, all the stuff you're experiencing, what you're trying to get on film. It does take a lot to withstand all these attacks and stuff from just negativity, basically. I mean, you have a lot of doubt and people who just don't believe you, or laugh at you, depending on where you're at and the circumstances of who you're telling people. Like if you tell like middle schooler telling the school about it, he probably might get laughed at a little bit compared to grown up settings. Or even if you're telling your family and stuff, they might laugh at you. Certain individuals, hunters, they've been hunting in the woods all their life and stuff. And we've heard it many times and stuff. Plenty of people have stories, and I personally have had this happen. I'm sure many people personally have seen it and stuff. Even a snicker or a little mocking, and people very much just dismiss it and stuff. It's very negative and stuff. It can take away from yourself and stuff. So your mental constitution and stuff. It can fatigue you a little bit, especially with you add in all the other stuff. So let me get a drink real quick. And we're bombarded every day, all the time, with media and stuff. Every time they usually talk about Bigfoot, it's most of the time, maybe now it's slightly changing, but it's very much laughed at and a joke. And I think there's a lot of younger people in media that are a little bit more open to the idea of mystery and all of that. But it's very much controlled, and the final edit usually has some laughable spin. And as we'll take a look in a future live show next week with government and Bigfoot news media. But yeah, so yeah, dealing with just all of that. And then when you're actually out in the field and you're researching, you come across things like plateaus of really not getting evidence, or maybe even not even experiencing stuff. And you begin to question yourself, and you can get fatigued, especially, questioning if, well, is it really out there, or are we experiencing other things? But, when you go through these long periods and you don't have anything happening, no evidence, no nothing and stuff, the mental fortitude comes in handy when you can embrace, like this more slower pace without having a frustration, without jumping into fabrication, telling tales or fabricating evidence, because you gotta keep the machine going with content, with content creators, or just keep getting evidence and stuff. I have to get another drink. Got my jug of water here with me. I've been exercising, doing the push-ups and stuff. So but the physical side is definitely important, but this mental side comes into play more a factor than I think most any other thing, because you know the mental side of things is always ongoing, with the ridicule and, like you said, stuff, basically patience in the field and stuff, standing tall and making sure you don't fall into the lust and greed of, trying to get as much evidence as I can to, be the best researcher or whatever bullshit, or pumping out the content to keep, getting money or whatever it is. You got to fabricate, or you got to, tell a big fish story because, well, no, I mean, truly nothing actually happened. If truly nothing happens, then, nothing really happens. But, you could always, if you really wanted to, spice it up a little bit and throw some music in there, and people get frustrated, and yeah, I think a lot of times that's kind of what happens with some of these like hoaxers and maybe like Todd Standing and stuff. If you have like Ivan Marks syndrome, you have a possible encounter and stuff, and then dedicate your life and nothing happens, and you get drugged down with all the negativity from your friends and family and whoever, whatever. Eventually, it's like I need to produce something, and that can lead you into a false path, a false direction of, well, it's not reality, nothing's really happening, and if you're making up stuff, then you know so it's good to have some patience and stuff, especially when there's nothing going on, or you can't get on the field, or whatever it is, to just, you know, not worry about, oh, someone else is going to find it, or whatever. To slow down and relax and work on yourself. And, maybe start up a journal, start writing, start doing other things in your research that you're able to do instead of getting out in the field, or if you're not able to find evidence every single time you go out and stuff, that doesn't necessarily mean you can't deal with research and stuff. You should make observations of what was going on during those times, because those will come in to play later with data and stuff, and you can compare notes to compare to what was going on during the day with an encounter, or during a day or situation without an encounter. What was going on in the normal ambience of the surroundings with the animals and stuff. All right. So I don't think I'm going to put the link in the chat for anyone to jump on, but the next show that we're going to do with the winter lab hangout, I'll probably put the link in the chat. We are going to talk about more winter facts and some interesting information that I think will relate to the Bigfoot research subject, very much so, more than the last one that we did. So it'll be pretty interesting and stuff. And again, when having the patience in the field and this mental fortitude to stay, to have the integrity to not bend when you don't have evidence and stuff, and you don't get caught in the confirmation bias, a little bit, and so you can avoid consciously or really unconsciously affecting the interpretation of the evidence that you find, that you're hoping to find, especially if you're in like this dry spell, a plateau of things. You're really amped up and giddy, and amping yourself up really to have this confirmation bias when you actually find potentially something a little bit more than, let's say, you're on a really big hot streak and stuff, all of a sudden, maybe some of that lackluster stuff that you might not care so much when you're on a hot roll, all of a sudden means a heck of a lot more when you're all of a sudden you're on a dry spell. And again, if you're not careful, you could over exaggerate the claims or the evidence, or what you're trying to figure out, which is what made like the track, what made the audio, what is going on in this area, I'm hearing stuff, or whatever kind of thing is going on. You want to try to disprove what's really going on before you want to prove like it's Bigfoot and stuff. And so if you're in a dry spell, you want to make sure that you avoid that temptation and really amping yourself up of, oh, you're finding something or hearing something, and it's an over exaggeration of your brain of what's really going on. Like woodpeckers banging on a tree, or maybe you hear a car going by late at night, and depending on how it's driving in the hills and the trees, the sound is muffling as the object is moving, towards you and past you, and as everything is bouncing all over the terrain and the environment. It's going to sound different in the different spots that a vehicle is traveling, or a bird squeaking, or whatever kind of calls and stuff. So it's really important to be out there and be patient with yourself and learn the ambient sounds with everything. And again, that comes with, you need the mental fortitude to be able to stay out there by yourself, or in a group, but like say at nighttime, facing the fear of the dark, basically. And being able to sit out there and listen to the ambient sounds of nighttime, or the ambient sounds of Mother Nature in general during the day. You need that mental fortitude to stay calm in the instant and not let your brain, over exaggerate about every single thing that might be behind every tree or shadow. You need the mental fortitude to stay in control in those situations, because, these guys aren't behind every single tree all the time, every single time you go out there. As soon as you go out there and you step 20 feet, onto the trail or off the trail. So your brain, is going to overreact. It's going to overthink. It's going to go into like fight or flight mode, predator prey mode. Your body's going to change. Your mind is going to play all sorts of what ifs into you. And you need the mental fortitude to, withstand those fear, but also make sure you can articulate yourself enough that you know what's actually going on. You're not going to freak yourself out subconsciously on your own without anything actually going on. You can work yourself up into a sweat, into a scare, into believing that, what you're hearing around you, which could be a little nesting bird inside of a bush that is, getting a little startled because you're going by it. And all of a sudden you believe that there's a Sasquatch, on the other side of the bush, or blah, blah, blah. You need that fortitude to calm yourself down, relax, take it slow, take it easy, and really observe what's going on and stuff. Especially if you're in an area where, you don't really have to worry about big predators like bears and stuff. I mean, you can really, be out at nighttime and really kind of feel relaxed and stuff, and as there shouldn't really be anything out there to get you, kind of a thing. And to sit and observe and stuff. And if you're scared, or you're, again, you're not quite sure what's going on, or you won't even get up to investigate the sound and stuff, maybe you should work on some of that mental fortitude that you need at nighttime for the nighttime investigations. And it's going to help you in the long run stuff, because you have the patience to be out there. You're going to learn the sounds. You're going to understand when there's really nothing going on, and you hear the normal sounds of mice running around at night, and owls hooting and making their calls, and coyotes going off with the pack, making different calls, things scurrying around, and there are nighttime birds, and you get used to it. So when there's something finally going on, and then you're a little bit ready for it, and you're a little bit scared, you work on the fear and stuff, because the more that you go out there, the more that you face your fear, you are going to rewire your brain to not fear it as much. You go out there and face the dark. Eventually your body learns that, there's really nothing to be scared of the dark out there. And, although there are dangers, you're going to be prepared for it a little bit better. So it is most certainly necessary to develop this mental fortitude, not only just to, not quit, the Bigfoot community or whatever, because there's mean people or trying to poke holes, or ridiculing you or your research or whatever it is, or or people who are just simply asking questions and stuff. Shouldn't be so offended because they're asking about your research and find details about certain things, and it's not necessarily about don't you believe me and stuff. It's more, we're just seeking and looking for information and stuff. And if your story is real and truly happening, then you shouldn't have to worry about that kind of scrutiny. You should, again, have the mental fortitude to stand strong and stand tall, because you might get ridiculed and stuff, because scrutiny is not bad. I mean, especially if we go to the official scientific route, I mean, you're going to be scrutinized and rigorously tested and stuff, especially if you have evidence or whatever. I mean, you shouldn't be afraid to throw it out there to be tested, or to find out if it's actually something else, a misidentification, or something else that's still pretty cool. You got to learn to accept some of those things and not get all butthurt and stuff, basically, right? So there's many of aspects with the mental fortitude that really apply to the Sasquatch Bigfoot arena. And conquering your fear while being outside in the wilderness. If you're by yourself, like I am, if you're by yourself, you get in situations, especially at nighttime, for extended periods of times out alone. You learn to develop a self-reliance and a little bit of an emotional stability needed to prevent being scared all there by yourself, or feeling like you're isolated out in the wilderness, or you learn to rely on yourself, because, well, you really are. And so if you don't really have the mental fortitude, again, your mind's going to play tricks on you. You're going to be scared. You're not going to want to be out there by yourself. And there's pros and cons. Again, it's not for everyone, but it is a little bit more challenging, I'd say, for a little, maybe more for some than others, especially if you've never been in the woods by yourself. Again, a lot of your brain and stuff will adapt. Like I said, you go camping, spend some time out there off your phone and things like that, going out in the woods and having fun. It does change you and stuff. It does slow you down, and it helps you observe better and calm you down. And so getting all anxious and amped up from the modern world and stuff, especially when you're out there, you're by yourself, it is going to be frustrating. You got all the bugs biting you, especially during the summer, or it's cold and stuff right now, and you're fighting against that mental fatigue of, oh, it's cold or it's hot, or, man, there's hundreds of mosquitoes just eating my face off right now and stuff. It's super annoying. F this crap. This ain't worth it and stuff. You only spend 20 minutes out of the woods instead of spending like 2 hours and stuff. Instead of putting more bug spray on and kind of just dealing with it. Because it is hard. It's not like it's. I mean, if it was easy, we would have found Bigfoot and stuff right now, right? It'd have been found. But it's not easy and stuff, and it is kind of the pain in the butt, really, and stuff. Especially if you keep going on years and years and years, and then you find evidence, you get reinvigorated and stuff. But at the same time, I think a lot of people would say it's highly frustrating with chasing these things around, and then presenting the presentation of the evidence, and dealing with nefarious people who want to steal your evidence or equipment, and try to con you out of money, and partner with you, and do all this money making quick schemes, basically. I mean, that's basically what it all is. I mean, it is very taxing on those who basically have a conscience and don't really care about that stuff. Don't want to be all about the money and stuff, or make a living off Sasquatch and stuff like that, as if that is a plausible thing. Because again, you fall into I always have to have something ready. Got to have something, story, or a new person coming on, or whether or not they're vetted and stuff. I mean, that's individual person basis, but we've seen a lot of big channels and a lot of big names. People who are supposed to, oh yeah, let me see your evidence and be a person who should be presumably of some qualified person who should check the evidence, but when they have a bunch of unchecked, unvetted people on their shows that they personally talk to about their stories and their evidence, which is very much lackluster, very unimpressed, and flat out hoaxing, I'm sure there's plenty of people that have interviewed other people who truly didn't believe anything that they told them was true, any of their stories or anything like that, and they just shook their head like a bobblehead. Yeah, because they only cared about the content that it created. It doesn't really matter if it's true or not, and so it's very sad and stuff. It's very taxing and stuff because it's very hypocritical. There's a lot of hypocritical things around the big community, or those who were a little bit higher up. And again, where do we send the evidence to? You send DNA evidence to this, that, or you send evidence to who to verify? It's just another person that really doesn't mean anything. If you actually get real scientists involved, good luck with that. It seems to get laughed at, especially with Jeff Meldrum's experience. It seemed, he in his own university he had issues and being mocked and stuff. I think obviously in the later years it was more accepting, of course, but I'm sure he had the mental fortitude that he developed over the years to stand tall in those hallways when you got a bunch of people laughing at you, or just joking, or not just dismissive, not even interested in taking the time to look at the research, which is just really funny. It's just funny, and you got to be able to handle that disappointment and stuff, especially if I'm sure Jeff and plenty of other people were happy, and again, disappointed their friends or colleagues or whatever, and the whatever it was, it didn't turn out good. I'm sure they had to handle the disappointment a certain way, and it comes in handy when you got this strength that you can rely on. Especially again, if your evidence turns out to be a misinterpreted evidence, or it's debunked, completely. It's like, oh, a bird made this sound or whatever. You got to handle the disappointment and stuff. You just can't be like, oh, I quit. Where? Or there are a couple of different researchers that I have seen that have boldly claimed to quit for various reasons. One particular almost quit. I think he quit like 5 times, basically because no one was really taking his story or evidence seriously, and it was a big old, well, I'm going to quit, and half a paragraph later and stuff, and you're still around. So, but I've seen, multiple people on Facebook and on YouTube boldly claim that they're going to quit for various reasons, and they never really do because they're still here. But you need to have the mental fortitude to deal with the negativity that comes with the Bigfoot community, or simply just people poking, prodding, or really not even giving a shit about your story or whatever. That shouldn't make you enough butthurt to quit, or maybe that is just to stir up some sympathy. And I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, especially with a person who. Yeah, that's what I always thought. Is this particular guy? He made a post a couple times that I see, and after like the second one, the third one and stuff, I was just like, yeah, like Cartman. It's just like, well, to me, it just shows that they don't have the mental fortitude to stand tall, to stand strong. If they're really going to be about research, or they're really into it, you're gonna. Not everyone's going to give a crap about your stuff. You're going to butt heads with people, or simply, basically most of the time, evidence is very lackluster. So a lot of people would just say, it's nothing, it's this, it's that, it's basically, what, or your experience isn't good enough because they weren't there. Um, and you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm quitting, I'm going home. Yeah, screw you guys, I'm going home. I'm gonna, go play with Bigfoot at home. And it's like, okay, well, there's thousands of people, I'm sure, in this community and Facebook and all sorts of groups. There are thousands of people. Not everyone's going to agree. I mean, not everyone's going to play nice or care. Or I got random people making comments all the time, and they dumbest of things. It's like, oh yeah, sometimes I go out in the woods and I take my baseball bat and I smack a tree. It's like, okay. And I say, well, thank you for your cooperation and collaboration in the research, I guess. I mean, there's a bunch of people who are just, gonna be like that. But to quit or whatever, or if you make a YouTube video and you boldly quit because of whatever, retard reason, that whatever, it doesn't have anything to do with Sasquatch, Bigfoot research, may or may not just be again, a sympathy play and all that, just look at me spotlight. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't really, I don't get that, because if you had personal stuff that, if you're going to quit Bigfoot, then you would fucking quit. I mean, there's no like, I'm going to make a video and then, cry about it. And then I'm going to, not really quit. And, all the people are going to pat me on and tell me not to quit. So it just shows that, to me, it shows, well, you need to work on the mental fortitude just a little bit, because you need to be able to stand tall and whatever you're dealing with at home. I mean, shit, everyone's deals with shit at home, or personal things that they deal with. But that usually those things are kept private and stuff. And usually, if you're gonna quit Bigfoot, then you should quit and stuff. To me, it just shows they're not. If it's like it, I don't know, why would you even film yourself saying you're going to quit and then you don't quit, and then all that. To me, it just is, it's a little sketchy, a little flaky. I mean, I don't know, you can be a good person, but at the same time, it's like when the shit hits the fan and you're really struggling, you got to walk that straight path, have integrity, have discipline, have loyalty. You ain't going to fuck up. You ain't going to be seduced by greed and lust or whatever, for whatever reason. I mean, it doesn't even have to be for the Bigfoot world. I mean, you need the mental fortitude to stand tall from temptation and stuff in the world in it of itself. But, to me, this community is filled with a lot of actors and fake make-believe story people who are having a good time making friends, and they see Bigfoot all the time behind their little apartment complex and with bushes. They take pictures, and there's Bigfoot that are like 2 inches tall, and Bigfoot that are 25 feet tall, and regularly visited, and all this, people feeding Bigfoots. And it's a jolly good old time with people just making up stuff, lying, fantasy believing. I mean, mental illness a little bit. There's definitely a corner for that. So as a real researcher that's trying to find, stay in reality, and, there's a lot of just bullshit out there. It just makes you like, it's like, there's just a lot of people who are just, as nice as they are, I mean, they're just telling a lie about a story that never happened. Continued saga of multiple stories and encounters that have never happened. And there's some very nice people who are friends with a lot of people, but their stories are just, come on. It's like make-believe now. Come on. And it's taxing and stuff. It's frustrating, especially when, you get lumped into this stereotypical redneck Bigfoot or mental illness, or these live fantasy role-playing researchers who just, stay behind a fire and get drunk and maybe clump up a grass ball and throw it at people. Say a Bigfoot threw it without getting up off their butt and really. Yeah, that's another aspect. I mean, there's a lot of senior citizens who can't get out, and I would say that's not who I'm talking about at all. Of course, I would say they're more of a victim group who are preyed upon heavily by multiple different people who don't have the mental fortitude to not do that. Mainly, content creators, liars, grifters, and people with a good story. Because a lot of those older people and stuff come from that generation where it was stigmatized and it was not as popular and stuff, and they truly want to believe, just like I wanted to always believe when I was a kid, and truly believe the stories. And we had stories and stuff that, I mean, not all of them were true, of course, but before AI was invented and before a lot of the crap that we because of AI and chat GPT, you can write like 100 stories within like what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just push a button. 100 stories on Bigfoot. From give me 100 different emails from 100 different people who had 100 different Bigfoot encounters. Beep, and then blah, 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 blah. Well, now you have content for, I don't know, the whole week, month, whatever. And the senior citizens are the victims who will prey on that, and they're not. That's just very nefarious. Give me money for a board game that doesn't come out, or this and that, a camera I never get, or buy me an RV or a new house or this and that, and I'll find Bigfoot, and magically Bigfoot's on the property, and whatever the case may be. I mean, there's my grandma used to watch infomercials, and she'd get two. She'd get two of each thing. So sometimes, not all of them, but she had dementia and stuff. But it was kind of funny watching some of those infomercials. Really, no, we already got them, Grandma. Because I always very a lot of the senior citizens that we have in our chats and stuff that we see in our community are generally good people, very kind-hearted people, very lovable people. I think that we love them all bouncing around in the chats and stuff. Again, that's why I don't like what's going on with the grifters and the people who prey on other people and go after, blackmail, and put ultimatums on people and stuff, because the perception of everything, basically everything that doesn't matter in reality, subscribers and popularity, or but there is gatekeeping, there is blackmail, there is you better play ball if you want to play the game and stuff. There's most certainly that, and senior citizens are taking advantage by the grifters and the people who promise things that they don't do, and mainly buy donate money for this, and then they just forget about it or whatever. It is sad and stuff. It is and there, I mean, it's just like a story channel. You're always going to have a good story, and some of these or so I see it with AI pictures. Some of the older generation, some actually really interesting researchers themselves, for some reason they just fall for the AI resolution of the picture or the video, and it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. Get some more, as a researcher, it's like, you better get another pair of glasses on, because I don't need to be a video forensic expert to analyze to realize that this is AI. I don't need a 5-hour process to tell you that yeah, this is AI. I can tell you that in 5 seconds by looking at it. And that's what it comes to, I mean, to me, there's a little bit of an ethical responsibility when it comes to research and your findings, and when it comes to like actual evidence that is real and not exaggerated make believe fishtails. And you need that mental fortitude to be able to prioritize, the importance of integrity, um, over recognition and over fame. You gotta over money, over it all. You really gotta, and it's hard. I think a lot of people. I mean, we see it all the time, and I think just people just want to throw claims out there, like Matt Moneymaker and those the best tracks of the year, and Leanne went out there and turned out to be moose tracks, and then Matt Moneymaker never said a damn ever, never, just handled it. It'd be like, okay, it's a misidentification. It's like like it's a good thing that Leanne went out there. Someone went out there and actually verified it, and now we know, and now we shouldn't be claiming that's the best Bigfoot tracks of whatever year and all that. You got that ethical responsibility, especially if you're, the BFRO and you're getting all the, reports, and it's your responsibility. It's under your ethical code that you're going to, what you admit and what you don't admit to the Bigfoot, on the Bigfoot website for people to research. These things keep popping out. That's why I'm always messing with these. They're popping out my ears, so I'm talking because my ears are moving. My other ones, they just seem to not, it's old and just not connecting right. I'm having connection issues, so I just bought these cheap pair. They work. They work good. But I hope everyone's doing good and stuff in chat. We're going to have another live show, possibly Saturday night, depending on how things go. That show might get moved. But there's going to be basically shows lined up. We're going to be lining up all the shows, ready to go. We're going to be talking about the Bigfoot in winter and stuff, more actual information and tracks, and then we're going to get into the government stuff. We'll first talk about government and media and relate to the Bigfoot stuff, and then we'll get into some more other stuff with that series. And we got a couple other interesting live shows. As the year is winding down, we start showing some evidence and stuff from this year. Probably a couple of years of stuff that probably hasn't been seen, and so that will be pretty interesting as we wind down. I got a show with Admiral Investigations on Sunday, and some other shows that might come out. And another thing about having the mental fortitude and and research and stuff is really when it comes to evidence collection, is the consistency of everything, measuring, photographing, tracking, whatever, the documentation and stuff. The toughness is, really the preparation and the persistence of things, and really following through the same way every time that you come across a track, having a solid routine of what you're going to do when you find stuff. It might be a pain in the butt. Say like, you find a track at the very end of the hike and you're all tired and you've just been walking for like a whole hour nonstop and you're fatigued and you're kind of drained and stuff. You kind of need that mental fortitude to step back and not give up, not quit on the evidence, and not quit, especially if something's good, especially if you're fatigued and it's like, ugh, it's like, do I really want to pull out everything and do all the check marks on the list for right now on this thing? It's, even though it's like, it's probably nothing. You got to have the mental fortitude to be able to do that consistently, especially, you have a like journal or you're writing down your observations and stuff. It might be kind of a pain in the butt, but to do that every time, like there's nothing that happened, and now I'm going to write a whole page on it. It's like, man, some people that might be not worth it and stuff, but to scientists and other people, it's actually more information and observation on days and the environment that do come into play. So, having the persistency and that fortitude to keep going and doing the things, even though, hey, I'm a little tired. You want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. You're the way that you want to do it is standard. There's no standard. But if you're trying to like up the game or whatever, if you have a standard that you're trying to adhere to, you don't want to fall below that standard because you're fatigued physically or mentally and stuff, for whatever reason. You're having a day at home, you go out in the woods, and it's like, you know, you kind of the saying, like, you leave your work at home kind of thing. You hang it on the tree or hang your hat and leave everything behind. If if you're not squared away when you're out in the woods and stuff, you might overlook things. You might not even care about things, and it's like, whatever. So really, you got to just be all around strong, physically and mentally and spiritually, I would say too, of course. When you're in Bigfoot land, because there's plenty of things that you are going to deal with, that it's going to be taxing, not only physically when you're out there, but mentally and stuff. And it's in those key moments of fatigue and stuff that's when you really see how you perform. You're really going to perform under pressure when you're truly physically fatigued and you're mentally fatigued. You're staying up all night, an investigation for a week, and you know the way we've done it and how it's been for me personally is like, it's very physically demanding. You wake up, you have breakfast, you pretty much walking miles and miles, or you're going and doing stuff, and you're constantly moving and moving and moving, and eating on the go and doing this and doing that. Very physically demanding, especially you're staying up all night and you're getting up early and stuff, and then you're going all day. As the days carry on through like the 168, or the week long hours, the 168 hours, as the week progressed, you're gonna hit this fatigue. The weather's gonna it's like I said before, it's hot out now. It's gonna be hot out for another 5 more days and stuff. Having that mental fortitude to be like, okay, it's gonna be crappy, it's gonna be sucky, man. I'm still gonna push myself and continue to conduct the research at the standard that I want to do it, at the level that, even more higher and stuff, because I think we all can improve. Certainly everyone can improve physically and in our own research and stuff. I'm sure there's plenty of ways where, we can improve and change things maybe just a little bit. Sometimes change isn't a bad thing, but sometimes change is needed to get a different perspective and move to get yourself moving a little bit of a different way stuff too. So just because something doesn't turn out or whatever it is doesn't mean it's the end of things. There's always light at the end of the tunnel and a way to come back bigger, better, and stronger and stuff. And mentally and stuff, it's so much needed, more than physically and stuff, because you don't really need to be a physically strong specimen or all that to Bigfoot research and stuff. It definitely would help. It definitely would protect you from damage if you get hurt or you start tumbling down a hill or something, or you potentially get impaled on a branch as you fall and tumble down a hill, and now you got a chunk of wood sticking into you, and it might not even be that far or life-threatening and stuff, but it is definitely going to drain you mentally and physically very fast. And you're gonna, again, physically you want to be strong, and mentally you're gonna want to be strong too in case of some crazy bad stuff happens, like injuries, or just quitting. There's people all over the place that get overworked up and stuff, and they'll quit and stuff. And um you're walking miles and miles and miles, and they for whatever reason your mind drags on to you, and you quit. And having the mental fortitude to endure, but also with being with struggling, or they say, I'm quitting, let's go back to the car, I'm done. You got to have the mental fortitude and the patience to work with them, and you really put in perspective how they're feeling, and truly their safety comes first in these situations. Not, if you're surrounded by Bigfoot and it's like, oh, but I almost have them on thermal, and the other person quits and wants to leave and stuff. You got to have the mental fortitude and the discipline to say, okay, you know what, you matter more. Your safety definitely matters more. Let's get you back. Let's get you back in the car. Let's get you warmed up. Let's get you dry or whatever. Let's put some mosquito medicine and spray on you because you're all ate up. You gotta have the discipline and the courtesy to guide them out of the woods, make sure they're safe, to really put their needs before the research, before whatever situation is going on and stuff. And that can be hard for certain people. I've been in situations where, a group is having activity, and there's certain people in the group who are getting very scared, and they're very adamant that, they're telling other people in the group, like, hey, stop making noises, stop vocalizing, stop trying to challenge them, stop doing this aggressive kind of thing. And that person who's doing all this ruckus is not listening, and they're still doing it, and they don't give a crap because they want evidence to happen. They want to see Bigfoot. They want to get it on film. It doesn't, the other people's safety or well-being, emotional state and well-being, it doesn't matter and stuff, that ego of seeing it, evidence. I want to, whatever. I have personally encountered that and know people have dealt with that. And, you got to have that fortitude of that discipline, that self-discipline to say, okay, you know what, I respect what you guys want me to do or what other people are trying to do. If you're in a leader position, you got to corral the group. There's a lot of crap going on when stuff's hitting the fan. People get scared, people get excited, people get, whatever it is. You got to be able to control the situation and stuff, and really, have the discipline to figure out what's the best thing to do in this situation. And most of the time is, people's safety first. So if people they really want to leave, that person, like if you and another person are there together, or you and a group of people, if one person wants to go and leave, they're not going to typically leave by themselves because they're too scared shitless to go by themselves. And so, they're not going to leave by themselves. And so, they ask you, it's like, or if you're the person who is the guide or knows where to go, it is your responsibility to get them out of there and in a safe manner, and, not be all butthurt or mad or frustrated or upset. That, it is your responsibility to make sure that person is out of there. And if you get frustrated or upset because of that, then you don't have that mental fortitude dialed in where you need it to be, because you got to take yourself back. And there's a lot of many important things. Like if you had a senior citizen out there who was scared or whatever, going slower, walking slower, are you going to get upset? I've seen it happen before with other researchers. They get upset. They're slowing us down. And where that researcher might think that that person is slowing them down, another researcher would be like, well, you guys, and I've said it before, well, you guys go ahead. I'll stay with this person. Walk at their pace. And guess what? Now it turns into a little bit different something. Now I'm here with an old lady, and it looks a little bit more appealing than a big group of people with, a bunch of, with a person who's a little bit of an asshat, like there's always it's always good in things, you can always make good out of the situation in certain things. It just depends on how you look at it. You can't be like, they're slowing us down or whatever. Well, maybe at a slower pace, you're able to observe things a little bit better. You can slow down and take a better look, take your time on things instead of rushing around or hooting and hollering and stuff like that. So that is one more aspect of of this topic of this particular show that I've been wanting to do for a little while. Stuff is just timing and stuff, and hopefully with the schedule and stuff, we're able to keep on track and do all these live streams when they are dated. Um, Basically, if things change, they would just basically it moved around a day or two, and we'll still try to bump them all in and be back in the regular schedule of things. We'll be back at least once a week or twice a week. Excuse me. We've got a lot of different shows that are basically about ready to go and stuff. And so yeah, they'll be on that. I'll be doing a show thing with Jessica on her show. So there'll be a show on her Arcane Adventures YouTube and stuff, talking about all that craziness that goes on and all that. So got a pretty busy week next week, and then as it gets to Christmas and New Year's, we'll be trying to do more shows, bouncing around through there. I actually have to check when is New Year's, what day that falls on, because it'd be cool to do a New Year's celebration or to jump on whoever's show. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. Have some kind of Bigfoot discussion. Looks like it's on a Wednesday night. That's doable. Very doable. I can do something real quick. Hopefully the connection is good. It's a little buggy on my end, so. But basically, that is pretty much the show, guys. I mean, I think I went through all the points I basically wanted to talk about. And when it comes to the mental fortitude and the Bigfoot community, as a researcher and as a person who has an encounter to tell, you gotta wade through the waters, and sometimes that water gets a little choppy, and you gotta learn to deal with it. You gotta learn to swim. You can't quit or be negative or depressed or really let it affect your research or or telling your encounter, your story and stuff, because if it's the truth and you know what actually happened, then there's nothing to be scared about. There's nothing to fear, especially from people who are ridiculing you. Hopefully I'm okay. It looks like I'm just on robot mode right now. So, just having that mental fortitude to stay strong and not quit and stay a couple years and stuff. What's going to happen the next couple years, honestly. If there's any last questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, let me know in the comments right now. Otherwise, we'll be basically shutting the show down. I don't feel like there's really not much more to talk about unless someone else has some questions and stuff. I guess I could have put the link in the chat to have a guest on to talk about this, but could always talk about this another time. This show, I kind of just wanted to lay it all out there and speak my mind and stay on track, not get distracted by anything other than what the show was supposed to be about and stuff. So this next winter show, hopefully we'll have that a little bit more. I might have the link in the chat. Hopefully it'll be a pretty interesting show depending on who we have on. You never really know. So I'll give you guys another minute. Just a few people are, it's not like we have hundreds and thousands of people in the chat and stuff. But hopefully when people do take the time to watch this video and stuff, they kind of take a listen and stuff and kind of maybe sit back and take a look and at their frustrations at the community or whatever, their own research and stuff, and dial it back or change it or re-examine it and build themselves up for this mental fortitude, build themselves up physically and stuff, because it will help, especially older senior citizens, to help you avoid injury and sickness. Exercise is shown to be so much better than practically anything when it comes to your health. Um, it is undeniable the evidence that shows that exercise, whatever your age and whatever your fitness level, just anything is literally dozens and dozens of times better than nothing. It is remarkable, and it's something that anyone can do. You just take one step forward at a time. It doesn't matter where you start at. The best thing about you eventually build up. You become stronger, you become better, you see improvement and stuff, mentally, physically, and spiritually and stuff. And it's very good for people of all ages and stuff. Maybe not super young kids and stuff, but just having them run around, be kids and stuff. That's more than enough. But those researchers who are, and I would say mainly men and stuff, but those who are need to step up their physical game, get a little bit better fitness, lose the Thanksgiving belly and stuff. And we should take it seriously and stuff. Because if you look like you're not physically able to, I don't know, go very much or go off trail and stuff. It's not. Well, when you say though, I'm going miles off trail, it's like one. 1.2 miles off the trail, or that's more than a mile. I mean, miles off the trail, I guess. Um but the fact of the matter is I have been with people who if they exercised a little bit more, you wouldn't basically twist your ankle and your knee so bad that walking down the stairs, that you could actually research and stuff and not get, it's like, oh crap, now I'm stuck inside the camp because I just twisted my leg coming down off some trailer steps and a camper step, and it's like, a little bit of physical fitness and preparation, is strengthen the ligaments, strengthen the limbs and everything to help you prevent injury. Because that's basically mainly what it does as your body gets stronger from muscles and strengthening from exercise. It is to prevent damage. You damage your body and stuff through the exercise, and as you sleep and you heal, it repairs it and becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, and it able to avoid a danger when it's critically needed and stuff. Like you take a tumble, you take a fall, which is what's most likely going to happen in the woods. You're going to fall down, you're going to trip on something, you're going to twist around on stuff, and potentially even impaling yourself on a log with a stick or into branches or into bushes, or poke your eyes out or scratch your eyes and stuff. Very easily able to happen. So by exercising and stuff, you're able to keep your balance better, able to resist the injury if and when you fall, or if you're twisting stuff, you roll that ankle. Sometimes I've had that happen. You twist and roll the ankle, and sometimes I can mess some people up, and sometimes it's like, oof, man, it's like I got lucky there or something, right? But if you exercise, it's going to help prevent that situation from happening, which can, depending on who you are and what you are, can be pretty bad. So if you're a couch potato all year and then you go Bigfoot researching, you're gonna more likely twist something or sprain something or trip, or But if you're physically active and exercising all year and then you go on your Bigfoot thing, well, you're able to resist injury, you're able to do more, go farther, have better endurance. And it's going to be just easier all around for whoever to do what you're doing and stuff when you're out there. Because I've been out there, and in Florida, it's super hot. I mean, it was hot. It was like 90, 100 degrees all day until like 2 a.m. From 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Then it was like nice. It's like, oh yeah, this is the time when Bigfoot are coming out. It's actually very nice out. Other than that, you're sweating all day. You're draining your electrolytes and everything all day. So you need to be physically in shape and ready to do that. Your body needs to be able to handle that stress. Not like, you're sitting on the couch all year and then you're putting yourself in a stressful situation, all you're literally sweating all day just from standing out in the sun, not even doing anything. That is physically demanding, and it's mentally draining on you and demanding. And people simply, it's a lot easier to make up a story than it is to sweat your ass off for hours and hours in the summertime as bugs are eating your face to get a little, to maybe get something or nothing. You know, you hit that dry spell and it's like, so very important, not only physically but mentally, of course, spiritually. And so with that, we are going to close the show down with no questions. And I invited anyone who just wants to start getting more physically active to start exercising. It's free. You know, you can do plenty of stuff at home, no matter what your age or physical level. There are something and stuff that you can do. And if you're a little bit more able-bodied and stuff, you want to keep pushing yourself, start doing the push-up challenge and stuff. This is the month of December. We're doing the big push-up challenge, the 10,000 Bigfoot push-up challenge and stuff. And I don't know if there was actually some other researcher who was doing it and stuff. I would invite you to the super. I don't know. Maybe we would just have a super Bigfoot endurance investigation where we just go out in the boonies of the wildest swamp, bug infested, where we get swamp ass for days and days and days, and it's hard. Then I won't have to hear anyone, quit or nagging, and it's like there are some spots in Michigan where it's like in the dead of summer. It is hard. It is physically and mentally just hard. Just traversing the landscape and stuff. It is pretty difficult, and I would love to take people out there, but like if you look like you're not gonna make it, I don't want to. I don't want you to go along on that particular area or that particular investigation. So I'm setting up some of these pretty intense investigations. I mean, you'll be swamp walking. There's some that we'll be walking in there with our supplies and stuff and whatever we can carry. I mean, some of these spots you can't drive to it, and so maybe even canoe in to some of these places with a boat if we're able to. But actually hiking in a day or two and stuff to be able to camp out and doing all the research and stuff. You need able-bodied people that physically can just do it and stuff. And I'm definitely gonna plan on some of those. Me and the boys are gonna be doing some crazy stuff. And if you guys are wanting to do that, I would love for you guys to go and stuff and do. But it needs to be serious, people. Because I don't want someone to turn into a liability, which is no problem because if something happens, something happens. But at the same time, it's like I really want to push out as far as we can. And to do that, you need to be physically fit and stuff. This isn't, this is we're trying to level up our research in our game and what we're able to do. And when we say, yeah, we're going to be going miles out, we're going to be walking for hours, like walking nonstop for hours, you need to be able to do that. And you need to be able to do that today, the next day, the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and then we're going to be able to walk out. If you're not able to do that, So the 10,000 push-up challenge is something I laid out there. You don't even have to do it. Do 1,000, do 500, do 100, whatever you're able to do. Do 10. Whatever the number is, it's more than what you did before. So with that, we are on day number 5 tomorrow. And we'll be doing another 500. And I was thinking out doing a live stream early in the morning at like 5 a.m. And we might do some push-ups live outside in the snow, depending on the connection and stuff and how fast the phone freezes up, I guess, because it is really cold out in the morning. But maybe we'll go live out there. I'm gonna do some testing and stuff um, to see if we get signal and if it's going to be choppy and all that. Otherwise, I'll just record stuff and post stuff later, all that. Because, whether you believe me or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm doing my own thing. I got my own building blocks that I'm putting together. And I truly do think that building yourself up is only going to help your research and stuff. By neglecting yourself physically, mentally, or spiritually and stuff, you are neglecting your research. You're not the tip top shape that you could be. You're not as sharp as you could be. You're not where you should be and stuff personally. And I don't think that if you're dealing with a lot of crap all the time at home or at work and stuff, that's just going to affect your research. It's just going to affect who you are in general and stuff. And so you got to have that mental fortitude to be able to take control of everything and deal with everything and not let it affect you. Say if you're a researcher, not let it affect your research and not let it affect you, sway you to, hoax or be nefarious or be deceptive. You got to have that integrity to stay on that path, or the loyalty to your friends and your research buddies, and not commit fraud or theft or faking shit and all the whole host of stuff that we talked about. you know I truly believe that if you're not working on yourself and you're not being better and stuff and bettering yourself, you're not going to have the best research that you possibly could be, because you're not where you should be at, if you guys know what I'm saying. So that's kind of what this live stream was about, is kind of the mental fortitude and really building yourself up mentally and physically and spiritually, and not getting dragged down by negative people or people who ridicule you because they really don't care, they don't believe you, your whatever it is, your friends, your family, your loved ones. It can be kind of sucky, when you tell your whoever and they really just, they don't truly believe you like you would expect. Maybe you would expect them to, or maybe like, they, or whatever, it probably can hurt people. So you gotta stand strong and stand tall, regardless of that fact, because if it really happened to you and stuff, then you should tell your story. You should contact people, and if you are researching the stuff, it shouldn't dissuade you from continuing your research, even though it's not important to other people, or it's not important to your friends or family, or it's not getting the results that you've experienced before. You can't quit. So with that, we are going to finally shut this show down. I hope everyone has a good rest of their night. We're going to be back Saturday night, depending on what goes on. But Saturday night, we're planning on it. I have a show with Mike from Abnormal Investigations on Sunday. And then next week on Tuesday, we have another show. And then I think I'm going to have another show on Thursday, and then possibly Saturday. And then we'll jump over to probably Tuesday and Thursday. And I think we'll probably be able to go on that track. So we might be 2 times a week, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, or maybe a Tuesday and a Saturday, or a Thursday and a Saturday, or even a Wednesday and a Saturday. Maybe even 3 times a week. I got enough stuff that we could do three shows a week, but I'm gonna probably space it out for you guys. So, but I hope everyone has a blessed rest of their night and their evening and stuff, or whenever you finally watch this and stuff. And if you guys, that's another thing. If you guys want to contact me, you guys can contact me through my email and stuff. It should be on the YouTube page itself. I think it should be. If not, I'm going to recheck it and do it. You can find me on Facebook, my personal page, and also the Lost Cryptids Conservatory page. You can message me on that. You can find our group, the Lost Cryptids Conservatory, where you could find me and message me that way. email me and stuff, so you guys can send me evidence of videos of whatever. Because there are some people that are trying to contact me and stuff, and it's just better to email me, and I'll put the email in the description of this here. It'll be out at least by tomorrow. It should be updated and all that. So, all right, guys. Well, I will see you guys next time. Hope you have a good one.